Corey, and thanks to all of the presenters. Let's give all of these great presenters and these great companies a round of applause. A true testament to what can be created right here on Long Island. At this time, I'd like to invite our panelists to join us on the stage. Guys, get to stretch your legs a little. Oh, sorry. John, David, Steve, Bill. Or any order you want if you move the tags around. So, to my immediate left is John Maroney. John is an attorney and the vice president in the Office of Technology Transfer and in-house counsel at Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory, a world-class research institution right here on the shores of Cold Spring Harbor. He first joined the staff of the lab to organize the procurement and other business activities of what was a rapidly growing organization. And since he became an attorney in 1989, John has served as the lab's in-house counsel. John has been responsible for the organization of the Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory's Office of Technology Transfer and its commercial relations policies. The Cold Spring Harbor Lab Office of Tech Transfer has spun off over 20 biotech companies founded in whole or in part based on technology developed at Cold Spring Harbor Labs. Many of those companies are now substantial companies, including well-known companies like OSI Pharmaceuticals, ICOS Corporation, Geron Corporation, and the Tulare Genomics division of Amgen. They employ thousands of people with billions of dollars in market cap. In addition, the lab has received over $60 million in royalty revenue and $70 million in sponsored research with commercial organizations since 1990. Cold Spring Harbor Lab is recognized as a leading center for the transfer of biological technologies to the commercial sector. John earned his BS degree from the State University of New York and is a graduate of Touro Law School. To John's left is David Colon. David is the CEO of Jove Equity Partners, a venture capital firm which invests in the internet, software, digital media, energy, real estate, and healthcare industries. David serves as a director of 8 privately held companies located throughout the country and is a co-inventor on 9 issued U.S. patents relating to internet messaging. He helped organize the recently formed Congressional Caucus on Innovation and Entrepreneurship in the U.S. House of Representatives. He is the co-founder of the newly launched Long Island Emerging Technologies Fund, which creates and provides seed funding for early-stage technology companies on Long Island. Since 2008, John has served as the chairman of the Suffolk County Planning Commission. In 2009, John was appointed to the Long Island Power Authority Board of Trustees, where he serves as chairman of the LICA Operations Committee, which is leading the selection of LIPA's organizational structure, service provider, and future power generation sources. John is on the board of directors of the Long Island Angel Network and the United Way of Long Island, and is a member of the advisory boards of the Long Island Index and the Community Development Corporation of Long Island. He was appointed as a member of the Federal Long Island Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy Committee and as a member of the Innovative Subcommittee of New York State's Long Island Regional Economic Council. He's a graduate of Long Island Energia Partnership. Previously, John served as a federal prosecutor at the U.S. Department of Justice, where he received the National Attorney General's Award for prosecuting terrorism and international crime, and as a special U.S. attorney in the New York State Attorney General's office, where he prosecuted healthcare fraud and helped negotiate the largest Medicaid settlement in state history. He is an honors graduate of Harvard Law School and has an economics degree from Princeton, where he was named USA Today College Academic All-American and served as student body president. And just keep the kryptonite away from him because he sounds like Superman. To David's left, did I say John the whole time? Yeah. I apologize. That's 2 screw-ups.
You knew who he was.
I'm so sorry, David.
It's a great name.
Yeah, I was stuck on John right here. Oh boy. Okay. Well, to David's left is Steve Winnick. Steve is with Topspin Partners. He came to Topspin from Honeywell International, where he most recently served as CIO of its $2 billion security group. He had been with Honeywell and the Ademco division of Pitway Corporation before its acquisition by Honeywell in 2000 for over 21 years as CTO of the security business, as well as founder and president of its wireless communications services business. Steve received a BS in economics from the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania in 1971 and a BS in electrical engineering in 1972, also from Penn. He received his JD from Georgetown University Law Center and is a registered patent attorney. To Steve's left is William Catacasinos. Bill is the managing partner of Laurel Hill Capital Partners, a private equity firm focused primarily in the power sector. Laurel Hill, joined by CIBC Markets and other investors, led the successful acquisition of TNP Enterprises, the parent of Texas New Mexico Power Company, an electric utility located in Fort Worth, Texas, as a result of which Bill served as chairman, president, and CEO for 4 years, and then as chairman and CEO for another couple of years, until TNP was sold, yielding a 2 times return on investment. Prior to Laurel Hill, Bill served as chairman and CEO of the Long Island Lighting Company from 1984 to 1998, where he led LICA from the brink of bankruptcy to financial health, resolving the issues over the Shore nuclear power plant. Bill transformed LICA from a traditional utility culture to a service-driven company, which was reorganized and recognized as one of the most efficient in the industry. Under his leadership, Wilco's stock went from a little over $3 a share to slightly over $30 a share, and when he left, Wilco was a healthy utility with over $2 billion in cash. Before joining Wilco, Bill was a founder and served 13 years as chairman and CEO of Applied Digital Data Systems in Hauppauge, a manufacturer of computer terminals and small business computers. That company became the largest independent manufacturer of computer terminals in the world. In 1980, as a New York Stock Exchange listed company, it was sold to NCR, yielding a 5 times return for its original investors. You're getting a pattern here, why he might be successful in the private equity world.
Whatever he says.
Right. Prior to ADDS, Bill was a founder, chairman, and treasurer of Corometrics Medical Systems in Wallingford, Connecticut, a company that pioneered fetal heart monitoring, which became a worldwide standard medical monitoring procedure during the birth process. Corometrics became listed on the New York Stock Exchange and was sold to American Home Products, yielding only a 4.5 times return this time. Still something we'd all take. From 1957 to 1969, get this, guys, Bill was assistant director at Brookhaven National Laboratory. And from 1953 to 1956, served as an officer in the U.S. Navy. Bill is currently on the board of directors of International Coal Group and serves on their audit committee and is chairman of the nominating and corporate governance committees. His previous board memberships included Atlantic Bank of New York, the Center for the Study of the Presidency, First National Bank of Long Island, German American Chamber of Commerce, Katima Inc., the Long Island Association, U.S. Life Corporation, and Utilities Mutual Insurance Company. He also served on the board of overseers at C.W. Post University. Bill was an adjunct professor at New York University's Graduate School of Business Administration. He was also a guest lecturer at Carnegie Mellon, Harvard's Business School, NYU's Business School, and Yale's School of Management. Born and raised in New York City, Bill earned his BS and a master's degree in business administration and a PhD in economics from one of my alma maters, NYU. He and his wife reside in Mill Neck. So that is, those are our panelists. We're going to start off the panel with John Maroney describing for us some of the attributes of the phenomenally successful tech transfer program that Cold Spring Harbor Labs has been conducting since he started and built it. And then we'll turn to the rest of the panelists to make a few remarks, and then we'll open up the floor to questions and answers. John?
Sure. Neil has already described some of the accomplishments of tech transfer in the laboratory. I might tell you just very briefly about the laboratory itself. It's a 120-year-old private research and education research institution. It is basically the crossroads of molecular biology in the world. Over 10,000 PhDs who visit the laboratory and take our courses or attend our meetings or are there as scientists or visiting scientists. So there are very few leading molecular biologists in the world that don't have a relationship with Cold Spring Harbor. The lab currently has 1,000 employees, up from 70 employees in the 1970s. In terms of, Neil may have mentioned our startups. They include OSI Pharmaceuticals, which was recently sold for $4 billion, and has in part stayed on Long Island because of the laboratory and its efforts. ICOS, which sells the ubiquitously advertised Cialis, which arose out of a molecular screen developed at Cold Spring Harbor, and for which Cold Spring Harbor had a founder's interest in that company. A lot of these companies proved to be quite lucrative during the IPO bubble of the 1990s. The lab was aggressive early on, as early as the 1980s, when it was controversial, in taking an equity position. We wanted to share both on the equity side and on the royalty side, understanding that we would lower the amount of our royalty in favor of equity. And it still remains our position that we don't want others we want everybody to have the same interests in a startup. And that means that if there is a equity liquidation event, that the laboratory will participate in that as well. We also think whether the investors can also get a small royalty like the laboratory. We try to make our interests as parallel as possible. Reasons for success, it's fair to say we had a number of prolific inventors during the 1990s and the 2000s. Even now, one of the technologies of the laboratory is called short-hair pin RNAi, and it is used all around the world, and we have just received by companies, and we have just received a patent on this, both in the United States and Europe in the last 2 months. So there have been this very high quality technology. I give credit to that, because most of the investors and most of the companies that we have either licensed to, or in many cases even the startups, have come to Cold Spring Harbor and wanted to do business with us. We had that great advantage, the laboratory's name, and being so close to Wall Street has also been a benefit. In addition, most recently, the laboratory is involved in, right now, the formation, or the recent formation, or negotiations for formation of 5 companies. And we have to say that the presence of top-spin partners on Long Island and its awareness of the quality of the technology at the laboratory has enabled us to do these startups. The availability of a capital alliance, a second capital alliance on Long Island, or a source of investment for Cold Spring Harbor companies, would be one of the most important things that could happen. The second is something that had really a history of ups and downs, which is the availability of small modular biotech space for our startup companies. We had the Bioscience Park, but to keep OSI on Long Island, the laboratory gave up its right to space in return for a land lease, so we could construct another building. But we now have many of these companies on our campus, and it's terrific for the companies because they get this world-class infrastructure that they're stepping into. But it's awkward for us. We do have the space right now, but it's closing up. And we really have a dire need for that space. And we're working with New York State to construct another facility, which we are certain, if it has a proper mouse facility component to it, because biology has moved from the test tube to the mouse, and it's also moving from the mouse into human product development. We have 2 clinical trials underway, and I could say, for Cold Spring Harbor related products, and I could say that was unthinkable 20 years ago, that we were so removed from that money. But I would tell you that companies not only spun off Cold Spring Harbor or Stony Brook or Brookhaven, but companies from the entire New York region would come to us if we had proper infrastructure in supporting them here. And I talked enough, so I'll leave it at that.
Well, thank you, John. Thank you very much. You know, it's obvious just listening to you that what you guys are doing is world-class and very successful. What we've heard today, what's coming out of Brookhaven is world-class and successful. And I think we're blessed here on Long Island to have these kinds of assets. But rather than me hogging the microphone, let's turn it over to the panel and anyone, you know, let's go down the line with whatever opening remarks you guys would like to make.
Sure.
David, that is.
Yeah, David, right. You can call me John anytime. Anyway, first of all, thank you to the Long Island Capital Alliance for putting this event together and inviting me and, of course, my colleagues here to participate. I think what Neil said, what Walter said with regard to Long Island's entrepreneurial ecosystem and is true and is exciting. I think we've seen in the last few years some important steps, whether it's the relationships that Jeff and Neil and the rest of the team have put together, that LICA is building with other organizations. We're not silos. We're all in this together. And that's true of the Angel Network and LICA and LIFT and ListNet and now Accelerate Long Island. So I think we have the working together piece of it, which we haven't had before. We have recognition from our political leadership with the creation of the Accelerate Long Island program by Supervisor Mark Lesko from Brookhaven and also the LIA. I think people are getting it. I think people have always known that we've had labs around here, but they were a bunch of buildings behind a sign. You know, you drive down William Floyd Parkway and you see you're more annoyed at the light you got to stop at while speeding by Brookhaven National Lab than anything. Now people, I think, recognize that there's actually some real regional assets there and are now getting to know all the work that all you all are doing, and it was evidenced here today. So I think it's an exciting time, and I'm excited to be a part of it. One way that we've worked to become a part of it is by creating this Long Island Emerging Technologies Fund, which we announced with Senator Schumer in the fall. The idea is to put together, we put together about $1 million of private capital, and then the state is actually putting in $500,000 to help take those early stage companies, very much like the ones we've seen here today, and get them taking that first step, so that then they can have a business plan, so that they can have a real articulation of markets, so they can get early stage prototypes, and so that then the next level, whether it be angel or seed capital, has something to look at and something to invest in. One of my partners in that effort, Neil Cohen's here today. I just want to recognize him. So we're excited. It really is in many ways a double bottom line fund. We are Long Islanders who care about creating Long Island companies. And we may create 20 companies, not all of them are going to succeed. That's the nature of our business. But if we plant 20 seeds, we know that some of them are going to flourish, and some of them are going to become the next leading companies on Long Island. So, again, thank you for having us, and appreciate the support of BNL in our effort with the Emerging Technologies Fund and the other research labs, and look forward to working with all of you.
Okay. Thanks, Dave. Steve?
Hi, good morning, everybody. Topspin has been involved in trying to bring early stage companies to commercial success for actually quite a while, starting with our predecessor fund, the Long Island Venture Fund, which was a small fund aimed specifically at bringing technology over the threshold from lab to commerce many years ago. And as John referred before, I think that really John. That John.
That John in my head.
We've been privileged to work with Cold Spring Harbor on a number of projects, and a number of our most recent investments have been through the lab. But I think there needs to be, and it's a continuation of what David was referring to, is that the kinds of things that come out of Brookhaven and Cold Spring Harbor, Feinstein, Stony Brook are really early stage, and they're typically very difficult for conventional VCs to get their arms around. They'll say, come back when you've got, and there's a list that every one of them will have. So these kind of investments, and for those of you in the audience that are looking at these companies either as angels or otherwise investors, you have to be hands-on. This is something you got to be willing. If you listen to most of the presentations, I'm sure in each of your minds there was a list of things that were there and not there. And these things don't happen by themselves, and they really require hands-on by the investor to help the brand new company go from the lab and the attitudes of a lab into how you be successful in commerce. And I think these elements are starting to come together, the combination of the great science. You need great people to go with the great science, and then the money is relatively easy.
Thanks, Steve. Bill?
When I, excuse me, when I walked into this audience and I looked at that sign that said Brookhaven National Laboratory, it brought back nostalgia you cannot believe. That organization is phenomenal. It is barely recognized by the average person, but internationally it's recognized as one of the best of the best. It takes young people, took me at age 25, and grew me and prepared me for some of the things that I tried to accomplish later on in life. In 1970, we tried to convince our then director of the laboratory to move into more specific applications of the work that we were doing. But at that moment in time, high energy physics was the place. And he told me, Bill, I'm not going to do it. I'm so pleased to be here today and see what Cold Spring Harbor's done, what Brookhaven is doing, and of course what Stony Brook is doing. Having been through 2 startups that started with an idea, and having lived through the process that took them to New York Stock Exchange companies, it becomes very clear that you have to have almost a fanatical desire to succeed. And as Steve pointed out, you have to be hands-on every single day to make it work. We're naive when we take on a challenge, taking an idea to try and convert it into something worthwhile. We're naive because we don't know any better. We've not done it. If we knew the challenges ahead of us, the odds are we would never step out and try it. That's the reality. And you have to live it to understand it. Our organization today does 2 separate things. We look for organizations and young companies that have essentially a market that they've identified that has possibilities. What we also do through our Laurel Hill Securities is we find young companies, because this market is underserved. Investment bankers don't give a damn about a company that's interested in raising $4 million. They don't care. We direct our efforts there, and we do private placements for young companies that have gone through essentially what we've seen here. There's been $1 million or $2 million already invested. There's a process or a product that seems to be proven, and now they need the capital to take them to the next stage or 2. We work with them on their business plans, and quite often they're so enmeshed